Come what may, bring it on. I'm gonna love it.
Welcome to LDS Unmarried Life, a podcast for LDS people who find themselves single either because they're divorced, widowed, or not yet married. And this podcast has no affiliation with the church. I'm your host. My name is Annette Bybee, and we are on round 2 of the all-male podcast, which we figured would probably happen because we always have a lot to talk about. And it's fun to have all the guy perspectives going on. We did lose one of our members, not to death, but he had to go even help move someone, which is great. But so we're going to introduce ourselves for those that didn't listen to part 1. I'm Annette Bybee. I've been divorced for about 3.5 years, and I have 3 little girls. And you are?
Steve Smith. I've been divorced over 5 years. I have a daughter serving in the Utica, New York mission, and my son lives in Utah with his mother.
Next.
I am Monty. I have been divorced for about 4 months. I have 2 kids, 24 and 12.
I am Jed. Never married, no kids.
I'm Drew. I have 5 kids. 2 are on missions right now. One's in the Utica, New York mission, too. Where Steve's kid's at. And I've been divorced for about 3.5 years.
And I am Pat, and Jed and I share the common thread of never married and no kids.
All right, great. Thanks for sticking around, guys. And so we left off last time, and we were talking about men and women, can they be friends? And I think Monty said something about how long before you know or something. And so I wanted to ask the question, do you think that there's like a set number of dates that you go on before you decide yes or no you want to pursue a romantic relationship? There's head shaking, but that's not audible.
It's different with everyone. I mean, those times, well, one date, yeah, friend. One date, no, I'd like to get to know them more. I mean, I think that is, and then there's been some I've been on 2 or 3 dates with. It's like, oh, I like her. I'm getting to like her more. The more I'm getting to know her then as well too. But I mean, I think that's really going to be variable, and with each person you go out with and how you feel comfortable with them, and if you even feel comfortable talking to them and being yourself with them.
So, but I heard 2 or 3 dates in there, but you said sometimes 1 date.
Yeah. So
okay, so you won't go out like 4 or 5 or 6 times, you think, before you realize, or?
No, it can be that too, but I mean, if it's the 4 or 5 or 6, I mean, you're already thinking that I think I'm interested enough to go on a second date with that person, and so you already have established some kind of connection and stuff. I would already say that you're kind of leaning towards at least friends, if nothing else, but you see more in them, because if I'm wanting to go out on a 3rd or 4th date, I would be seeing more in them, probably a little bit more even than a friend at that point. But I mean, not expecting it, but just I have that interest.
Right. All right. What else? I saw some head shakes and nods. And
I have to agree with Monte. I can typically tell on the first date if there's an interest in going for a 2nd, 3rd date, or if it's just friends. I can pretty much tell on the first date. Usually there's a lot of, that first date, it's more about mannerisms, and it's about common interests that are first established. If the mannerisms are off, or if there's no common interest, there's no connection. There's obviously no worth going on as a first date.
What do you mean by mannerisms?
I would say
Facebooking.
How they carry themselves, their level of politeness and respectfulness, and just being what's the word I'm looking for?
I agree with Jed.
No, just carrying themselves well and just presenting themselves well. Common courtesy, really.
Oh, Monty's cracking himself up over there.
The only thing that I would add is that sometimes people are really nervous on a first date.
Yes.
Sometimes you should give them a 2nd or a 3rd. Experts say you should go out 3 times, but sometimes you know for sure on the first dates. But sometimes you're not sure and you need to go out on a 2nd or 3rd.
And I can always tell somebody's nervous in that case. If there was some kind of level of interest or some kind of level of connection, I'll give it another shot, 2 or 3 dates. But again, that mannerisms, I've dated people who are just rude or disrespectful, and that's going to be a red flag. I'm sorry, we're done.
Yeah.
I've actually cut one off early once because of that.
Really?
You shut the date off early?
Yes.
Good for you.
You walked out on the date?
Oh, we just called it early. We had dinner, and dinner didn't go well. I was like, we're not going to do the restaurant.
Did you leave her at the restaurant?
No, I took her home.
Here's enough money for an Uber.
But then I can date someone for 3 or 4 times, and still that point's like, yeah, this is a great woman, beautiful connection, whatever. But I don't really see us taking that further than that, so we'll go into the friend zone after that. So really, there's no set number to determine if it's going to be friends or not. It all depends on this. It's a situation by situation basis.
Yeah.
So I can't get past, I'm really curious, what happened with this lady that she was rude, or what did she do?
Yeah, so this was not LDS, let me say that. This is
Okay.
back in the day before I was LDS.
All right,
and I could
give us the
church.
PG version.
Well, how do I say this in a clean way? We met each other at a bar and decided it would be fun to go out the following weekend. Well, she was disrespectful to the waitress, very demanding along the way in different situations. And from that point, I was like, no, we're done.
She wanted hot food.
So I'm looking for somebody who can carry themselves respectfully and show respect to other people.
Yeah.
If you can't do that, then I'm
So
sorry.
she was disrespectful to the waitress, was the main thing.
Or
All
just some
right.
people in general.
And, okay. Cool. And let's see, Drew, what are you thinking? 1 date, 2 dates, or no set number? Or?
I don't think there's a set number. I think, though, the first date, if there's some level of connection and common interests, things you can talk about, then move forward. Go on a second or third, but I don't think there's a set number. I think it depends on what your type of connection is on the first date and how it goes. And I'm looking for a lot of things that Jeb mentioned too, how they carry themselves, in terms of the first date, how we talk, what we can talk about, how easy it is to talk, those sorts of things.
All right, Pat?
I will definitely go out with somebody one time for sure. I used to be the guy who would go out on a date, pray about it, and then would know on the second date. And well, so far I've been right. Haven't gotten married, but I will say over the years, I've taken that and thrown that out the window. And the best relationship I had was a few years ago, and it lasted about 9 months. And I got through all that, and I learned more about what I was interested in and what were deal breakers for me. And so I really learned a lot from that relationship. I wish I would have done that a whole lot earlier in my life.
What, throwing what out the window?
Throwing out
about?
the stigma about what I expected to go out with somebody and
The list?
the list, yeah. Checking off the boxes and doing all that. Dating is more about letting things happen freely.
Yeah.
Figuring it out, finding out what you like and what you don't like. And it's finding out what really is important. Several of my friends and I went on a cruise a few years ago to Europe, and we talked about what are deal breakers. And understanding what your deal breakers are becomes very important when you're dating. And you pick up on those deal breakers all the time. You just need to decide what are your deal breakers, and this person helped me realize what my deal breakers were.
So you didn't know before then?
No, I had an idea, but it solidified some. Others, I wasn't really a deal breaker for me.
So do you think, and this is for all the guys, do you think you are more putting more emphasis on your deal breakers rather than what you're looking for? Or are you looking more at, I want these things and I don't move forward unless I find these things? It's like on the one end, these are the things I do not want. And on the other thing, and these are the things that I do want.
That comes to the deal breaker issue. For instance, I remember a girl in college was telling me how great this guy was that she was dating, but he had this problem, this problem, this problem. And the take on that is that when they got married, it was all going to be better. My comment to that was, well, just because you say you're going to have family home evening, once you start, if you're not starting beforehand, you're not going to start after you get married.
Yeah.
And so that's the reality of it. But when it comes to the deal breakers, over the years, I've let a lot of stuff slide as far as what I was interested in. not because it wasn't a deal breaker, but because it was kind of like the if-then statement. If you have these things, then this will be okay. We can work on these things. I'm not married in the perfect person. I'm not looking for the perfect person. That person doesn't exist. They're not finding that person in me either. But what I'm looking for is the person that's right for me.
That's what I was going to support Pat in that too, because I mean, I think you're more aware of your deal breakers, going back to the question, and you're looking at those more than what you want, because what you want is adjustable. Because in each person you meet and stuff, they're going to be bringing different skills, they're going to be bringing different personality and stuff, and it's what you're willing to compromise or sacrifice to, because you want to be with that person now. And
Well,
so
so
you're
do you
willing
have
to
any
do that.
non-negotiables, though?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So you're not going to compromise on everything. There are some things.
No, and that's why we're talking about deal breakers. I mean, you do have those deal breakers and stuff. If some of those things happen and stuff, no, absolutely not.
Somebody tell me one deal breaker that they have.
Well, I had one date in Utah, and I'd met her on LDS Planet, and her profile said that she was temple worthy, or had a temple recommend, and we had chatted, and it sounded like everything was legit. But when we got over there and we sat down to have dinner, she ordered a beer. That's kind of a deal breaker for me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have a problem, and I've dated some ladies where they've said, I do drink. And I said, that doesn't bother me. I'm glad you're honest with it. And I've dated them, knowing that they're probably not going to go any farther, but...
So you wouldn't marry someone that drinks?
Everybody can change. If the atonement's not there, then the whole premise of change is gone.
So, but you would, what I'm saying is, if she's drinking at the time that you're ready to get married...
I would think that my goal is to be married in the temple, so if she was drinking at that time, we couldn't do that goal.
Right.
I couldn't make that goal. So I probably couldn't be with her just because that's that important to me.
Right. And any other deal breakers?
My deal breaker is if they're breaking the law of chastity. I'm disappointed and surprised by how many people I find out after their divorce. And I understand why, because I talked one-on-one with many women. I'm sure the same thing can be said for guys. They do not keep the law of chastity after they're divorced. I find that a huge turnoff.
I've had ladies flat out tell me that doesn't apply to adults, that just applies to the youth.
That's amazing.
Nice way to look at it.
That's totally amazing. I am constantly surprised when I first came back into the single scene at how many people that I became aware were out breaking the law of chastity and going to the firesides and sometimes the temple. And it's like, whoa, I do not understand.
It's been really surprising. I've been surprised
mentality.
like Jed has.
I've never understood why those folks aren't just out in the world. I don't understand that. Maybe I need to have some of those people on the podcast, but I doubt they'd ever admit to it. But I don't understand that mentality at all. I mean, because that, not only is that breaking the law of chastity as far as, yeah, you're doing the wrong thing, but then there's that integrity piece to it. Who are you?
Right.
Are you this temple-going person? Or are you this person out breaking law? Which one are you? You can't be both. Right? So.
Now, on top of that, the health issue.
Yeah, that's huge. All right, so going in a slightly different direction.
Slightly?
What do you wish women would do differently?
That's a broad broad question. And which category?
Wow.
I don't know. I want to hear from what you guys, I mean, what is it that women in general do maybe? Okay, I want to
Actually,
say...
be more specific in their questions.
Yes.
Good answer.
All right, so you want more specific.
Or if they swipe up saying that they're interested and you message them, they message you back then.
Monty wants to be messaged back.
I mean, geez.
You could match with 50 and only 2 will respond to your...
Yeah.
But
That's true.
But
That's true.
The thing with that, though, that's okay.
It is, but
Because
why
the
would you be
anonymity
on there
of
and
the
why would you
internet-
match if...
Yeah. The anonymity of the internet is simple. It means we don't have to be responsible. But for those of us that truly are interested in finding something tangible to hold on to, we're going to be honest with whatever we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if you're wanting to know, what was your question again?
What do you want women to change?
What do you wish we would do
She's
differently?
drifting.
Okay, here's, honestly, if I'm in an area where I was living at before I moved to Arizona just recently, the interesting part about that is there were literally, I could not find any women there to date. I knew them all. I was friends with several of them. And the interesting thing is that my connection with these people were more as friends than anything else, and I wasn't interested in dating them. I already knew all the people there. But yet, everybody would say, I can't believe you're not married. I'm like, well, I can't believe it either. I can't believe there's no singles here. Oh, no, there's tons of singles here. Show me some. And they would always point to the people I already knew. So if the women are interested in being married, be out there.
Oh, yeah.
Be
Well,
at activities.
Be active.
Yes.
Be active
Yes,
in that.
yes.
Even if you have kids, that's
Yeah.
fine. I don't care that you have kids. To me, the only thing that I care about is that I have a chance to get married for time and all eternity. And if you have kids, if you have full custody, that's even better for me. Because I would love to have the opportunity to adopt your kids.
this is Pat speaking right now.
But if you have kids and you have shared custody, that's great too, because that means they have a dad in their life. I'm not there to take over his role. I'm there to help create my own family. And if I happen to be a part of yours and bring that in, I'm okay with that. So be out there, be active, be there, but don't sit there and think that there's no guys out there, because the guys are out there.
So Pat wants the women to come out of the shadows and come to the activities. And I have to say it's the same thing on our side. I meet a lot of guys on Planet that I go out with because I never see them at any activities. That's the only place I meet them is on Planet, and they're not coming. So I'd say the same thing to the men. If you're out there and you're not coming to activities, come to activities. We need to add to the dating pool here. You know, let's make it a little bit bigger, a little deeper. Well, let me just tell you. For instance, on the women's side, I can tell you from the conversations I've had with other women that one of the complaints that we have about men is specifically when we're texting, right, is that we'll get like almost what I call drive-by texts, right, where I won't hear from a guy for 3 months. Like maybe we'll meet on Planet or something and we'll message back and forth for on and off for a week or so. And then 2 or 3 months will go by and I'll get a, hey, how's it going? And I'll come back with, oh, pretty well, how are you doing? And then nothing.
That's probably because you put him in the friend zone.
No, this is someone I've never met. And I've seen this on several different guys where they tell you that, you know, they express interest, you're messaging for a while, and then they stop, they ghost you for whatever reason, and you think, oh, that's over. And then 2 or 3 months later, hey, how's it going? And then when you start a conversation, they just stop.
Wasn't it you just said dating is not a straight line on the last podcast? People get busy. People have lives.
But why? What I'm wondering is why dip your toe back in for like a second and say, how are you? And then when you respond, they don't respond back. And I've had this more than one occasion. And then 3 months will go by again, and it's the same thing.
The same thing about on mutual. Why would you be on mutual and swipe up and have a connection and then not message? Same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, do you guys ever do that? Do you know? I'm just trying to figure out why. Like,
I think it's a people thing,
not a
guy
gender thing. Okay. Well, that was my example of what I've heard other women say about guys. I mean, do you have women that do that to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mutual.
You've had that
Occasionally.
Drive-by texting.
Oh, all the time.
Monty, no. Steve, yes.
Some
Yeah.
that
Yes.
I don't hear from forever, and then you hear all big long texts and
Wow.
The only thing I can figure is like that these people want connection, but they are not ready to get into a relationship,
Commitment.
and so they just reach out briefly, get that little connection, and then move on. That's the only thing I can figure is, I don't know how that really gives you much, just a hi, but it's happened to me many, many times where even with local guys, where they won't ask me out, but I'm thinking of a guy in particular, and he's in the metro area. Well, no, he's not in the metro area, but he'll message me periodically, and then he'll hint around like he wants to go out, but then never come out and actually ask me out. And then he'll maybe respond on Facebook to a few things, and then, and it's just like, I don't understand what you're doing. Why,
Being a friend. You wanted a friend, so he's being a friend.
And
I don't talk to all of my best friends every day. I only check in with them every once in a while.
He's not my best friend.
Well, that's just a friend.
And if there's some interest one way or the other, and there's a friend interest on the other side, so if he wants to be a friend, maybe you're more interested. It could be for anybody, and it could be vice versa. Don't be afraid to be active and approach that opportunity to ask that guy out. Unfortunately,
Women don't do that.
Unfortunately, things have changed in the dating world. Not all of it's great. But I think sometimes, typically, chivalry, guys should always go after the women, right? And pursue the women. Women love
that's
being
a good
pursued.
question.
But at the same time, I think with life as it is, the age of the day that we live in, it's okay for women to go ahead and pursue men.
Okay, let's ask it for you all, how you all feel about that. Obviously, that was Jed. He's okay with women pursuing him. Well, but let me ask you this caveat. What if it's a woman that you're not attracted to?
It's okay if they approach me. And
It's
during,
the same
during
thing
that
we do all the
conversation,
time.
it's okay to hang out as friends or go do an activity together as long as that communication has been shared that it's only going to be done as friends.
So, but since she
So
needs
it's
to stop
communicated.
pursuing then and just,
Correct.
okay. Well, what about the rest? What about the rest of you guys? You want to be pursued? You don't want to be pursued?
I would say
It's fine.
I would say it's fine, but the same applies when I'm pursuing a woman. I get the messages about whether they like to be pursued or not, and then I respond to those. And I like women who respond to those with me as well. When I send them the messages, yes, I'm interested. When I send them messages, no, I'm not really that interested. Then I expect them to. I want them to respect that.
Yeah.
And I respect women. If I approach or pursue somebody and they're not interested in me, I respect them being upfront with me and say, hey, you're a great guy, but I'm not interested. Instead of playing the body language or the cold games. I am terrible at reading messages or body signals or whatever.
Reading minds.
Reading minds. I'm terrible at that. So I annoy you because I keep pursuing you because you have not respectfully asked me to just be friends.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Or they've not given you that really
so
good
communicate
indication.
that verbally.
So
We
you guys
terrible
are saying
otherwise.
women
I'm
need to
only
be
responsible for the words that come out of your mouth.
Responsive. Yes, responsive.
more. Okay.
That's right.
So women need to be more straightforward. So you guys can handle it if a lady says she's not interested.
We do that all the time.
We do that all
Yes.
the time. We
Oh,
hear
Oh
that
my
a lot.
gosh.
I'm letting the ladies know that. Okay?
That's our position.
Because
Okay.
sometimes women will hem and haw because they're not sure that the man can handle it.
Oh, no, we can't.
Okay,
And we,
so
we prefer that, honesty.
I would prefer it.
Do it in a respectful way. but
Being
we prefer that
respectful,
honesty.
right.
Maybe when we were in high school, we're a little past that. We've already gone through this many of times already.
But don't expect a great friendship if that's. I mean, really.
well, what if she wants to transition it to a friendship? What if she's doesn't want
That-
to date you, but she wants to be
That's
friends?
great, but there are friend things that happen, and there are relationship things that happen. I don't talk to my best friends in the world every day. I don't text them good morning and good night.
Yeah.
I don't make out with my friends. I
That was Jed.
it's just there are relationship things and
Yes.
there are friend things.
Yes.
And some people, not men or women, kind of get confused on those lines.
I think they do, because when we say friendship, there is really just friendship, and there's no like dating interest or romantic interest. But as part of romantic interest and getting to know someone, there is a friendship component of that.
But see,
And
some
those are
of
two different types of friendships.
some
yes.
of the women have thought, well, you're going to quit pursuing, or why have you not texted me? Well, you told me that we weren't clicking. And I'm not going to text you every day if we're just going to be friends. I may not text you every week. I may be that drive-by guy because you've said we're not interested. So, yeah, you have to be realistic that I'm not going to keep pursuing if you tell me there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. Yeah, I don't think most women want to continue to be pursued. if they've already said.
But some,
Right.
yeah, but some of
some
them
of
get
them want
really,
the attention.
some of them get really
I
weird
know.
about that attention. Well, why
Yeah.
did you quit texting me? Whoa.
There's nothing there.
I do think women want
Can
attention.
we go out?
I like, yeah.
No.
Yeah, I know.
You know,
women
and-
that like attention.
If it's a date, I fully expect to pay for it. But if we're friends,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
All right, so that's a good question. Do you guys always pay on the first date, or what's your philosophy on that?
I will always
I do.
pay on
I
the
always
first
pay
date.
on
Drew?
the first date.
Okay.
I always pay on the first date.
Second date, third date,
I always pay on all.
I always pay actually all dates.
all dates. Steve
Yeah.
says all
Yeah.
dates. Drew says all dates.
Unless she offers, and I've
I-
had some offer and say, hey, I'd like to pay once in a while. I'll do it this time. You know, you do it all the time. That's nice, actually.
Right.
That's very thoughtful.
Jed, what were you going to say?
I always pay for the first date.
All right.
If it goes on a second, third, or fourth date, as in one situation, we are okay sharing the cost on the date. It doesn't mean anything inferior towards one person or the other. Sometimes it helps when we can stretch the money. We can do more fun activities together.
Right.
But chivalry again, men always pay for the first date. On the second, third date, I still expect to pay for the dates. But I'm open if the woman suggests, please let me do it. I'm going to respect that wish. Not that they have to, but I'm going to let them participate in that if they desire to.
Right. Monty?
I always prefer to do it myself, but I know that there's some women that want to make it an issue that they can take care of themselves. And if I notice that, then I'm going to respect that. But yeah, I go into every date that I'm paying for. And I'll even pay times when I've gone out with friends, though, too. Because I just want to be with them. And I mean, I know that if they're on a tight budget or I don't know what they were expecting, I don't mind paying for a friend to just go out then, too.
Well, for me, when the woman goes to pay or asks if they can pay, I will say, I'm going to let you decide, and here's the way that you can decide. If this is a date, I expect to pay, and I will pay. If this is just a friendly get together, have dinner, go to a movie or something, then I'm okay with splitting it. But if you expect this to be a date, and I've expected this to be a date, I'm going to pay for it.
All right, interesting.
So I'll throw one more caveat. This individual will hold hands, will kiss, whatever. But if there's a multi-activity date, so there's dinner, there's a movie, or there's bowling, or there's whatever, we actually take turns paying the date for that activity on the same date. I'll pay for dinner. She might pay for the next activity the same day, and I'll pay for the final activity, whatever. So that's kind of a fun way to do it too. I don't think it's all or nothing, and it's discussed before the date happens. And that's the other thing. What is the communication before the date? What's the expectation?
Yeah.
So
That's
it's
helpful.
open. But yeah, the first 2-3 dates, absolutely men should pay for the dates. But if women offer, I'm open to it.
And that's because you're going to activities you don't want to do.
I've enjoyed all the activities so far.
Just teasing.
Do you have anything to say on this, Pat?
I do. When it comes to paying on dates, I will pay on dates. I don't care if it's the 1st or the 30th.
This is Pat.
I've had a girl I was dating actually say, I want to pay for this. Is that okay? And I told her, yeah, that's totally fine. I'm okay if they want to pay, but they have to express that to me and not be upset after the fact that they didn't get to pay for it. That's not my intention. I asked you out. I'm focusing on you, and the whole point of that is to make sure that I'm the one who's doing the asking.
I do
You're the one
think
asking.
that a lady should be prepared with most guys
Oh,
that if they do the asking out, they might want to be prepared to pay.
Yes.
Because there's kind of this weird situation where if a lady asks a guy out and then expects him to pay,
No,
that's kind of
that's not right.
Yeah, okay, so here's a hypothetical. A guy and girl are messaging on Facebook, and
what's his name?
He keeps saying, "Hey, let's get together sometime," but he's not ever like coming out and saying, "Let's get together on this date." And so she finally says, "Let's get together on this date," and so technically, I guess she's asking him out. I don't know. They go out, and he says, "How do you want to handle this?" And she says she'll pay for herself, and he pays for himself. Well, how does that feel to you? I mean, is that...
That could still be considered a date, but because it wasn't discussed beforehand, and it was more of a finalization of the date, and it was unclear of who's asking who, that's acceptable.
Yeah, it almost seems to me like that's not technically a date. It's just like... And again, I don't think we need to get hung up on that kind of thing because it's just a way to get together and get to know someone.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? And so I have to keep telling myself that we need to like get out of the box on some of this stuff and not worry so much. But I was just curious because I did go out on a date a long time ago with this dude. We went out. He asked.
Were you looking at me because it was me?
No.
I just got the weirdest look.
Because you know the situation. But it was a long time ago, and he asked me out. I met him halfway because he wasn't in my same city. And I drove because he had driven all the way up to see me that I thought it would be fair for me to drive to where we were going. So I drove to where we were going, and we did our hike first because that's one of my favorite things. Stop it, Monty. And then we went out to dinner, and when the check came, he looked at me and he said, "Well, who's paying for this?" And I was so floored. Like, I didn't even know. I mean, this was a first date. I didn't know what to think. I could feel my face going red. And it happened to be a Mexican restaurant. And so I looked at him and I said, "Well, the waiter put it in front of you, so I guess it's yours." And all I could think was, we're in this Mexican restaurant with these macho Mexican waiters, right? Of course they're going to put the check in front of him. And what kind of guy is this anyway that would do that? I was totally floored.
Men should always expect to pay.
Men should expect.
Well,
that's correct. Men should expect.
Thank
to
you.
pay.
I polled a bunch of my friends afterwards. I'm like,
Yes.
what? What?
Now, I will also say that on dates, the object is not to see how much money somebody can spend
No.
to impress a person on the
All right.
first date.
That.
So low-cost dates
Yes.
are acceptable and they're fun. The object is to get to know the other person.
That was going
You
to be
can
my
do that
next
whether you
question.
spend $10 or whether you spend $100.
Cruise
Yes.
lines are acceptable too, I would say.
What
You
I
got a
want,
lot
that's
more dates.
so that's what I want to know is what you prefer to do on a first date, because I have like my own what I call the Annette date, and
I've never been on it.
Hiking a Mexican.
it's hiking the bluffs, which is just a really close little hike here where you can hike up to the top of these little mountains and see the whole area around here, and then going out to Mexican food, right? All right, and I call that the Annette date because I like the hike because it's about an hour where you get to walk and talk, and then Mexican food, right? Molcajete in particular. But anyway, that's my favorite. And if it's going really well, and we both want to, we can go on to like dessert. On that particular date, we went to dessert and I paid because I could already see it was an issue, but he still wanted to hang out and I was still a little bit confused by the whole thing. I think I might have handled it differently now. But anyway, so let's go around the table and you guys tell me what you prefer to do for a first date. Let's start with Steve.
I just like to find something that they could be interested in or their favorite restaurant and just go talk. I will go to a movie, but it's not the best because you're just sitting there and you can't really talk. And I've been on dates with some ladies where you said something in the movie and you get yelled at. So
Because you were talking and interrupting the movie.
yeah,
So
something that they like, one of their favorite restaurants, just something to get to know them, but more things where I can talk and know who they are.
all right, that was Steve. Monty.
Probably the same. I mean, I probably would not suggest. I wouldn't go to a movie on a first date, and I probably wouldn't go to a concert on a first date.
Oh, I would.
So, lots of them. I mean, you can't talk a lot though. To me, I'd like to get to know them more and understand them and be able to hear them, as opposed to yelling.
And the other thing though that I like to do that might be a little bit different is if they'll let me, and I understand that we're in this world where there's all these other things and bad people, I do like to pick them up.
Yeah.
And take them because that gives me drive time to talk.
Yep.
There and back, which might give me an extra hour to talk. So I do like to pick them
Well,
up.
I can tell you from the woman's perspective, I don't like to be picked up unless I know the person ahead of time, or I know someone that knows him who can vouch for him.
And I understand that.
And also, honestly, the drive time can be awkward. You know, I mean, like that first time that you're meeting someone, you're getting into this enclosed vehicle with
So
them.
you're saying I was awkward?
I'm saying that I've been out. I've been on dates. I've done it both ways, where I've met the guy, and if it's the first time I've met him, let's say, and generally that's the case. I don't know why most of my dates come from Planet or Facebook or someplace online where I have not met them in person, and so the first date is the first meeting, and so it's awkward in the car. I mean, it's a good time to talk, but you just feel a little bit weird in closed space with this person. Now, if I've known them already, we've been already talking in person, flirting, whatever, and flirting is different people, but then it's okay. But otherwise, I now have a hard and fast rule that if I've never met them, I just meet them at the restaurant. And if we really like each other, we can go on to do something else after that. But or meet them at the Bluffs and we hike. And if we like each other well enough, we go in the same car to the restaurant. But the first initial time, I want to meet them someplace because especially if I don't like them, I don't want to be in that car again with them on the way home, honestly. I've had that too many times where I'm like, oh, this is not going well. I know he has to drop me off and we're going to have the doorstep thing.
Just refer to Hitch. They jiggle the keys.
Yeah, no, not so much. So, all right, going on to Jed.
So a couple things. I guess the first date activities, right?
Right.
I'm open to hiking. I've done some mountain drives. I've done picnics in the mountain.
Oh yeah, now you're like an outdoorsy guy, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I love hiking, camping, do a lot of photography out in the mountains, stuff like that. So I would love to take a drive up to the mountains, have a picnic up there, or do a hike. I've also done like first Friday night art walks, and if we're both into art, that's a fabulous activity. First Friday night, again, not being cheap, just the fact that it's a mutual activity that we both like. All those museums are free. But the fact that we have a common interest in art gives us something to talk about and to bond and communicate about, connect with. In terms of the picking up or not picking up at the house, women are looking for a guy who will make them feel safe and secure, right? And so I will expect for myself to meet this person for the first, even the second date at a mutual public space. If they offer or suggest or ask that I pick them up at their house, I'm more than willing to. But let them know that, hey, let's meet in a public place. Because that means that, you're going to respect their safety and their security. And the women respect that.
Well, that's great. And honestly, it's not always just the safety. It's the awkward discussion in the car.
We made it through.
But no, a second or third date, if I liked them well enough on the first date, yeah, second or third, I want to have the conversation in the car because I want to spend more time with them. But sometimes that first date, I think we probably all agree that online and in person are so not the same.
No.
And I have found that I make the mistake a lot of times of when I meet someone online, I get an idea in my head of what they're going to be like. And then I meet them and they're not like that. And it's usually a letdown, which is dumb. And so I've tried to get to a point where I don't have any preconceived notions at all. Or I expect the worst and then I'm not disappointed, right? So, all right, Drew.
First dates, I typically like to do something where we can talk. So I've gone for drives in the mountains, walking, hiking, dinner, those sort of things. I've never gone to a movie on the first date. In fact, I don't go to movies until way into the relationship.
Yeah.
Because you're just sitting there, not doing anything. Mm-hmm. There's no interaction, or very little. So I like to have interaction. I want to find out about that person, find out what, if we have some connection, some interest that will continue or not continue the relationship. So those are the most beneficial to me. And I like to do active outdoor stuff, so those are fun too.
Mm-hmm. All right. This is Colorado. It's like a requirement, right?
It's a mecca of
That
places
is
to go.
a deal breaker. If someone doesn't like hiking, camping in the mountains, it's over.
Well, no, that's good to know.
Actually,
Seriously.
That's a deal breaker pretty close for me too. I really love outdoor. I really like to hike a lot. So,
Yeah, and that's why I put in I put in my profile, I'm not into fishing, hunting, or camping. Mm. And so guys know that right up front, that I like going out in gentle little hikes, but I am not into rock climbing. And so these are good things to know about yourself because you don't want to get into a relationship and then 5 months down the line, what? You're not going to come fishing with me? That's my life. I'm fishing. All right, Pat.
I'm kind of like everybody else. I want to get to know them, talk to them. So any activity like that, like paint your own pottery, stuff like that, because that guarantees a second date because you have to bring them the pottery.
That could be a bad thing too.
But if, on the flip side of that, if it doesn't work out, you just they called and said that it broke.
You can go pick it up yourself.
Ding dong ditch, leave it on.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But it's about getting to know. I mean, isn't that the whole point of dating anyways, getting to know somebody? So why are you spending time in activities that you wouldn't get to know them at? I do agree with, I understand the point of letting them know, meeting them somewhere for the date. But I also agree with the fact that, part of the date process is getting to know them. And if you're picking them up and doing all that and being responsible, that's what you want. I mean, in today's society, and Monty actually kind of mentioned this early on, the whole chivalry thing, it's interesting how many girls, even just the simple act of opening a door, I grew up in the South. I got spanked for not saying yes ma'am in school. I mean, that's one of the things that I am very cognizant of respecting women for their role as a woman. It's not they're my mother, my sister, or anything like that. They're a woman. They deserve to be treated like that. And frankly, in society today, if you are going out with guys that are not treating you like you deserve to be treated, then that's your own fault. I'm sorry. Yeah. That is your own fault.
I agree with that. Dr. Phil says you teach people how to treat you. And so I think that's definitely true. And I do like the idea of being picked up, just not with someone that I'm not comfortable with. Like I said, if I meet some guy at a fireside and we've been chatting for a while and he's friends with someone I know and someone, he's been, I don't know.
He's vetted.
He's vetted, thank you.
He's vetted, yes.
He's been vetted, then pick me up in the car and that's
why I'm also cautious of asking even just to go on hikes and stuff too, because it's a non-public place. You're there by yourselves only and stuff, and that's
why the Bluffs is so good.
I focus on.
There's lots of people. I mean, you don't want to be in. Yeah, I've been catfished before, and I'll talk about it in some other podcasts. But
catfished?
Yeah, where someone has one picture on their profile, and then you meet them, and that's not who they were. It's a lie. Basically, they've lied.
Wow, that's a lie.
And the thing is, I met them at the Bluffs, and I was okay because it's broad daylight. It's a hike, but it's like you've been there. There's no trees. It's just like really
so it's very public open.
Very public, very open. There's always people. I've never been there when there haven't been a lot of people.
So there's no personal safety issues like a more remote area is what you're saying. Yeah,
yes, you don't go into the wilderness or anything.
No. I've never done that on a first date. Not till multiple dates in do we have a level of comfort. Do we go like hiking in the mountains where it's remote?
Yeah, I don't know.
Go hike Chautauqua.
You go hike
where it's popular, or go hike Roxborough perhaps, or somewhere up in Golden Gate.
Still Creek. Golden Gate's good. Yeah, Clear Creek.
Yeah. All right. So this has been good.
No other questions?
No, we are out of time, and I had another question, but seriously, it's a whole other podcast. So
just ask the question.
Okay, I'll ask you. You can think about it for the next time, and maybe guys that are out there can email or comment to me. On AnnetteTalks.com or email me at AnnetteTalks.com.
Steve at Annette.
And someday we might have an email that's Steve at AnnetteTalks.com, but it's not there yet. Anyway, what I want to spend a whole podcast on is what's the hardest thing about being a single guy in the church. And obviously that's not a 5-minute discussion. So be thinking about that, you guys. And if you want to have another discussion, Pat's not local, so unless we bring him in on the speakerphone, that's not going to happen with him. But you guys, the other 4, be thinking about that. And anyone that's out there that's listening to this, that if you're local and you want to be on that podcast, let me know. Because I think it's a really important discussion that could be, we lose too many guys in the church that are single, that haven't married yet, or they're divorced. They just tend to fall away, and we don't want that. So that's going to be the discussion for another day. So again, find me at AnnetteTalks.com. Call me. No, Jed wants to be called. Just kidding. Any other questions or comments? AnnetteTalks.com or Annette@AnnetteTalks.com. And not Steve yet, stop pointing to yourself. But thank you for listening, and join us next time.
I'm gonna bloom where I'm planted. I won't take things for granted. Come what may, bring it on. I'm gonna love it.